Alrighty, let's get started. My name is Peter Liffers. I am your host for tonight, Berkshire Museum Family Trivia Night. As always, you will want to grab your pen, paper, pencil to keep track of your scores at home. Tonight's theme is classic movie monsters and the creatures of the deep. Now, if you miss a trivia or want to go back and check out some old ones, you can check them out on explore.berkshiremuseum.org. While you're there, check out the events page and sign up for our Haunted Hilarious virtual night at the museum. We have 2 dates for that, so choose the one that works for you. We have this Friday and next Friday. We will lead you on a tour of the museum, and I, as a pilgrim, will scream about aliens and ghosts, and I will probably lose my voice, and it will be a fun time. Tickets are available at the website. Alrighty, let's kick things off. That's enough ad copy for tonight. Alrighty, our very first question. We are going to kick off with what's the most classic of classic movie monsters. Now, here we have Dr. Victor Frankenstein, not Victor Frankenstein, growing disgusted with the horrible monster he has just brought into the world. Now, Mary Shelley famously wrote Frankenstein over a sort of writer's retreat with various other writers, and it went on to become a roaring success and sort of this defining gothic horror tropes that we see throughout use in films today. And because of the immense popularity of the story of Frankenstein, it is not shocking that it is one of the earliest monster movies, earliest monsters adapted to film. My question for you all, though, is how early was it? Hold on, my polls have disappeared. There we go. When was the first film version of Frankenstein? I feel like I'm saying Frankenstein different every time I say it. Released. Was it in 1939, 1926, 1917, or 1910? So what you have to figure out here is how old movies are. And when people thought that they really wanted to do a monster movie. So once again, when was the first film version of Frankenstein, however you want to pronounce it, because I'm saying it every way tonight, apparently. 1939, 1926, 1917, or 1910? All right, we're going to give you another 10 seconds or so to get those answers in. So you want to get your answers in before we wrap up on question 1. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we're ending our polling there. All right, just eking it out with half of the votes. 1926 was the group's guess as the first film version of Frankenstein. There we go, I said it correctly. You guys are actually a little bit late. It was 1910. It was an Edison kinetoscope. It is a loose interpretation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And it's about 12 to 16 minutes long, depending on how you watch it. In the original Edison kinetoscope film reel rate, it is 16 minutes long, but when it's played later on at the modern film reel speed, it speeds it up to about 12 minutes. It is a silent movie, and if you ever want to watch it, versions of it are available on YouTube, with which people have added their own music to accompany it. I believe it's called something like Frankenstein Goes to College. It's a little bit weird. And this is Frankenstein's monster as seen in that movie. Heavy makeup, very strange costume. And again, it's a very loose interpretation of it, but it is the first time Frankenstein appeared on film, far earlier than his vampiric friend Dracula. Now we are going to go from a man made from pieces of other men to a man who is a wolf. Now, legends of werewolves date back centuries in Europe, and there's a lot of different ways that people say you could turn into a vampire. Some turn into a werewolf. Oof. You can either don the skin of a wolf. It might be a potion that you rubbed into your skin. It might be a curse bestowed upon you. It could be the curse coming from eating human flesh, and then thus this cannibal act turns you into a horrible beast. It might be an association with Satan. There's a number of different routes. In the modern day, it's treated more like an infectious disease where a bite from an infected carrier will then transfer the curse onto you. So in the modern sense, it's treated more like a disease, where in the past, it was more environmental. Something you did in life warranted you being turned into a werewolf. Now, there's a number of myths about how to defeat werewolves. You know, yeah, they can't cross running water. They wolfsbane will hold them at bay. There's they have an allergy to silver, things like that. And all of these crop up in different stories at different times. Now, that allergy to silver is a little bit interesting because the Wolfman movie from the 30s is not the first film about a werewolf. My question is was it the first time that a werewolf in film was shown to have a weakness to silver? So while it was not the first werewolf in film, the Wolfman was the first to show a weakness to silver. True or false? That question was very clumsily worded by me. So true or false, while not the first werewolf in film, the Wolfman was the first to show a weakness to silver. Of course, in the modern day, silver is the tried and true. You can probably all think of various different movies, TV shows where someone has taken a silver bullet to go hunt a werewolf. However, this trope was not necessarily always there. Alrighty, just another. 5 more seconds on those answers. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Gonna wrap up our polling there. Most of you guys guessed true, and that is 100% correct. The Wolfman was the first film which showed a weakness to werewolves having a weakness to silver, with the titular Wolfman being beaten by a silver cane at the end, and that is what defeats that monster. It's actually his own silver-tipped cane. And now tonight we actually have a bonus question, because while I was thinking of weaknesses, the original story of Dracula, as portrayed here by Bela Lugosi famously, he has a number of differences from modern vampire myths. So, which one of these is not one of Count Dracula's weaknesses in the book? So, in the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker, Dracula has a number of weaknesses. Which one of these is not a weakness in that book? Is it burning in sunlight? Oh, that should say repelled by garlic, not repelled by sunlight. I made a typo when I was typing in answers. So number 2 is repelled by garlic. Number 3, cannot cross running water. Number 4, must sleep on the soil of his native land. One of these is not a weakness that Dracula has in the novel. And just to be in, making it clear, number 2 is repelled by garlic. I made a typo when I was typing in my answers. So 1, burning in sunlight. 2, repelled by garlic. 3, cannot cross running water. Or 4, must sleep on the soil of his native land. All right. Couple more seconds on your answers, and then we will find out. All right, we're going to end our polling there. Repelled by garlic and cannot cross running water was a tight race. The actual answer is burning in sunlight. Dracula had no particular weakness to the sun other than that he could not use any of his other powers. But Dracula could walk around in the sun just as any other man. No sparkling, no burning, none of the other sun-based weirdness. However, he could not transform, nor could he hypnotize while he was in sunlight. However, he was still repelled by garlic. He could not cross running water, and his coffin had to be laid atop soil from Transylvania. So he has a number of weaknesses in the book. However, the sun wouldn't catch him on fire. It simply stripped him of all of his powers. And now here's a different version of a knockoff Dracula. This is Count Orlok from Nosferatu. And Nosferatu was a very, very early vampire film, I believe 1922. And it was loosely based off of Bram Stoker's Dracula. He is a single solitary vampire. However, Dracula has his 3 wives, and in modern vampire fiction, vampires are now known to sort of gather together in large groups. So my question for you, in modern fiction, what is the most common term for an organized group of vampires? There are some, like, you might hear the term nest, which is usually a vampire hunter referring to a group of vampires they are hunting. But what is the most common term for an organized group of vampires? Is it a congregation, a colony, a coven, or a court? I had some alliterative fun with this one. So yeah, this is the sort of modern vampire fiction. So a lot of the tropes that began with Dracula have since morphed and changed. So now vampires are usually pretty toasted by the sun, but they've also lost a lot of their shape-shifting abilities. So in modern vampire fiction, what do you call a group of organized vampires? Feral vampires tend to be called nests and things like that. All right, we're going to wrap up voting in just a couple seconds. All righty. It was a pretty even race all around. However, I think you will find that in modern vampire fiction, the most common term used to describe a group of vampires is a coven. Because that's edgy and cool, and you wear dark clothing and a lot of leather, and you all stand there with just a wine glass full of blood in your mansion that's both gothic and technologically advanced, and it's very hip and with it. So if you are a modern, very cool, hip and with it vampire, you're likely part of a coven. Alrighty. Going from the very cool, sleek Living Dead to the a bit more dried out and wrapped in bandages Living Dead, we are going to talk about The Mummy. Now, I'm sure almost all of you are more familiar with the 1990s The Mummy movies, of which of Brendan Fraser fame. 2 of them, very good. Third one, I will stop editorializing The Mummy. However, the original Mummy movie was originally written about an Italian occultist who is alive for 3,000 years by injecting himself with nitrates. However, the movie theater loved the script. However, some recent discoveries had made sort of this occult thing less sellable than Egyptians and mummies. Egypt mania had sort of gripped the nation at the time. So my question for you guys is, The Mummy films feature a fictional cursed mummy named Imhotep. However, he is based off of a real life mummy. So what is the real life mummy that inspired him? So what real life mummy gave the inspiration to change this Italian occultist movie into a movie about a mummy? Was it the mummy of Rameses the Great, the mummy of Tutankhamun, the mummy of the female pharaoh Hatshepsut? Or was it the discovery of an unknown and improperly buried mummy? So the Mummy movie is essentially a rewrite of another script to cash in on the Egyptomania that was still ongoing in the 20s and 30s, and what real life mummy inspired the theater, the studio, to make that change. Is it Rameses the Great, Tutankhamun, Hatshepsut, or an unknown and improperly buried mummy? All right, we're going to end our voting there. No real winner. Tutankhamun eking out with the most votes. And that is 100% correct. So the discovery of King Tut's tomb in 1922 kicked off a massive wave of Egyptomania. People wanted everything Egyptian. So you would see Egyptian-themed parties. You would see Egyptian-themed furniture. You would see Egyptian-themed art just becoming incredibly popular. And while it had faded by the time the original Mummy movie was being produced, it was still around enough for the studio to feel that a Mummy movie would capture audience attention greater than a story about a 3,000-year-old Italian man. So it was the discovery of the tomb of King Tut, or Tutankhamun, that led to the Mummy movie becoming the Mummy movie. All right, and for our final creature of the night before we switch over to our real-life creatures of the deep, we have the creature from the Black Lagoon. He is a later addition to the Universal movie monsters, coming out in the 40s. This monster is known as the Gill Man. He is also the inspiration for the monster in The Shape of Water, Guillermo del Toro's sort of monster lady romance movie that he made a few years back, which was entirely based off the creature of the Black Lagoon. Now, this creature is the last of its kind, a missing link species from the Devonian era. It's been living in isolation for millions of years, and it was discovered by scientists on an expedition to look at strange and isolated fish. Now, my question for you guys is, what country is the creature from the Black Lagoon from? Where was the scientific expedition taking place that discovered the creature from the Black Lagoon? Were they is the Black Lagoon somewhere in Papua New Guinea? Or was it in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, at the time known as Zaire? Was it in the Amazon rainforest of Brazil? Or was it in the Philippine Islands? So where were these scientists when they were researching their fish? Did they discover the creature from the Black Lagoon? Was it in Papua New Guinea, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, formerly Zaire? Was it in the Amazon rainforest of Brazil, or the islands of the Philippines? Just a few more seconds on those guesses. Alrighty, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Voting was all over the place there. No real clear winner. Brazil barely getting the most votes, and all of you guys who answered Brazil, pat yourself on the back. It was in the Black Lagoon of the Amazon rainforest that these, I believe, ichthyologists, I think that's the scientists who study fish, discovered the creature from the Black Lagoon. It was in the Amazon rainforest. Alrighty. Now we go from one creature from the watery mystery depths to another. We are now switching over to our real life animal section of the night. And we are kicking it off with the giant squid. Now, giant squids are one part legend, one part reality. It was a strange thing that there was these stories of sailors encountering incredibly large squid, or seeing very large squid on the surface of water. There are also all the scars on sperm whales, which show enormous sort of sucker marks from very large tentacles. And while numerous corpses have washed up on beaches for decades, and we have known that the giant squid is an actual animal. However, all we ever found had been the bodies that washed ashore, because it lives so deep in the ocean. My question for you guys is, what year did we actually get the first picture of a live giant squid? What year were the first pictures of a live giant squid captured? Was it 1978, 1987, 1993, or 2004? So it was the very first year pictures of a living giant squid were captured. Was it 1978, 1987, 1993, or 2004? So they are super tough to get pictures of, just simply because they are very, very, very isolated creatures. They live incredibly deep in the water. And not much was really known about them. And, as time has improved, we have figured some greater details out. All right, we're going to wrap up our voting there. There is a clear winner on the guess here. Most of you guessing the year 2004, and you guys are 100% correct. It was a Japanese team in 2004 that successfully captured the first images of a living giant squid. They are not super high quality photos. They are pretty grainy, but they do show a giant squid coming up to the lure, grabbing the food, and swimming off. So those are the very, very first images of a living giant squid. Up until that point, the only thing we've had to go on are corpses that have been found either floating on the water or had washed ashore. Alrighty. Now, when you start going really down into the deep depths of the ocean, it's very commonly named the abyss. Once you're down into the abyssal parts of the ocean, there is no light coming from the sun. It is all trapped in the upper levels. So a lot of animals have evolved their own forms of light, a form of bioluminescence. And this is both used in attracting prey and also for defense. So we have bioluminescence both being used offensively and defensively in the depths of the ocean. Now, this here is an illustration of a barbeled dragonfish. There are a number of different barbeled dragonfish species. However, many of them have forms of bioluminescence on them. And a number of them emit a very uncommon color of bioluminescence. Now, blue is probably the most common throughout the animal kingdom, the sort of bright bluish, whitish bioluminescence. These barbeled dragonfishes emit what uncommon color of bioluminescence? Yellow, green, or red? What color are they emitting that is not typically seen in the bioluminescence, especially amongst deep sea creatures? So you have, and I will say they are using it in more of a predatory way. So I will give you that hint. So their bioluminescence is less of a defensive bioluminescence and more of an offensive one. And if I jump back for a second, and you can tell those teeth are not made for gentle interaction. They are looking to chomp down on stuff. All righty. Another few seconds on those guesses. All right, and we're going to wrap it up there. Purple was the clear winner amongst the guesses. However, it is red. And marine biologists believe that this red light that they give off is intended to help them hunt particular prey so that they can see sort of the red light refracting off of the scales of the particular things that they like to eat. So these barbeled dragonfish emit a red light, which is highly, highly uncommon in deep sea creatures. And it appears that they are using this red light as an evolutionary advantage while hunting. So that red light gives them an advantage to detect the correct form of prey, which is, I don't know about you, if I saw this creepy looking fish with red glowing eyes coming at me, I would be frankly terrified. That is a strange, strange looking fish. We now move from fish to an invertebrate. Now, these guys here sort of shocked the world when they were discovered because they are doing something that is not very common. They're sort of living in a world without light and not relying on energy from the sun to survive. They're drawing their energy from somewhere else. These are giant tube worms. They are found in the deep, deep depths of the ocean. And my question for you all is, where do giant tube worms make their home? Are they attracted to whale corpses and using them as sort of a fertilizer to build? Are they attaching themselves to hydrothermal vents and using the heat that comes up through these sort of volcanic vents? Are they attracted to brine seas? So when you're down at the very deepest depths of the ocean, there's actually a second layer where the concentration of salt is so high, it forms sort of a second sea under the sea. And are they using this sort of brine sea to derive nutrients from? Or abyssal kelp beds, which are just kelp forests, but just really, really, really deep down and just reaching up as far as they can. So what do you think tube worms call their home? Whale corpses, hydrothermal vents? Do they find them on the brine seas, the sort of sublayer of incredibly dense salty water underneath the ocean, or abyssal kelp beds? All right, a few more seconds on those guesses. All right, we had another one where it was a good scattering. Hydrothermal vents just eking it out with the most votes. And you guys are 100% correct. While whale corpses do present a boon to the abyssal depths, whenever a whale dies and sinks to the bottom of the ocean, the creatures on the bottom of the ocean, no matter how deep they are attracted to it. However, those things are usually picked clean fairly quickly, so it would not give creatures like the tube worm enough time to establish a colony. Brine seas are essentially toxic to all life. The concentration of salt there is so high that only extremophile bacteria can really survive in it. And abyssal kelp beds don't exist. I made those up. Hydrothermal vents, these tube worms draw their energy not from the sun, but from the heat of the volcanic vents. And they're using that as the sort of energy and driving force of life down there. So it sort of shows that while the sun is certainly the source of pretty much all the energy on the surface of the world, down at the depths, life sought out alternative means of additional energy. Alrighty. So while we're down in the abyssal depths, we have tube worms growing up around volcanoes. We have glowing red-eyed fish swimming around on the hunt. We also have a different type of hunter. Now, this is an double anglerfish. It's got two little baubles to do its angler fishing with. Now, they are part of a number of deep sea anglerfish. They are famous for their very large, toothy mouths and the little light that they dangle to attract prey. My question for you guys is this a male or female double anglerfish? The species is known for extreme sexual dimorphism, so the males and the females look very, very different. So my question for you, is this a male or a female double anglerfish? Again, this is one of the species of anglerfish that is known for its extreme sexual dimorphism. What sexual dimorphism means is when you have a difference between male and female, some species it's not particularly pronounced at all, and in others there can be massive difference between the two. Uh, Most common, it's sort of think of like a peacock, how a peahen is very brown and small, but a male peacock is enormously brightly colored with an enormous tail. That's an example of sexual dimorphism. All right, we're going to wrap up our voting there. The runaway winner on the votes is female, and you guys are 100% correct. It is a female double anglerfish. The males are tiny. They never really extend beyond a larval state. They swim around independently for a little bit before finding a female, latching onto them, and essentially dissolving into the female anglerfish, existing as a little parasitic bud on the female anglerfish. So these female anglerfish might have several parasitic males attached to them. Now, not all anglerfish feature parasitic males. A number of them have this very extreme sexual dimorphism. Some of them have much less difference between male and female. Some of them are parasitic, so they latch onto the female and stay there forever. Others are small, independent, will swim up to a female, fertilize eggs, and will swim away. But the double angler is a tiny parasitic male that will attach itself to the female anglerfish and then just sort of like dissolve into it. And it's very weird. For a long time, they couldn't figure out how some species of anglerfish reproduce because they could not find any males until they found them dangling on the ladies. Alrighty. For our final question of the night, I've decided to combine our creatures of the deep and our movie monsters. This is an illustration of a dissected vampire squid. They have on the inside of their tentacles rows of spines, which I said very weird, rows of spines on the inside of their tentacles. Their tentacles are webbed together. They are a dark, dark red color. And while they look quite scary, they're actually fairly small. So do not imagine these guys fairly big. If you were to see one in person, it would not be an enormous squid, but rather a much smaller one. However, these guys live down in those abyssal depths. However, as with many abyssal squids, it does not have any ink. So when it is threatened, as I said, it is a fairly small squid, so there are a number of things down in the depths that would like to eat it. It takes up a defensive pose, utilizing those spines on the inside of their tentacles. Now, what is this defensive pose called? Is it called the pumpkin posture, the hedgehog posture, the spine wheel posture, or the witch's hat posture? So it will maneuver its leg, it will maneuver its legs to push the spines out as far as it can to take up a defensive posture as it lacks an ink sac. It also has a fairly slow metabolism due to the deep depth, not having a tremendous amount of food. So it is trying to defend itself as best it can while also utilizing as little energy as possible. So it's this weird balance of protecting itself while also making sure it doesn't overexert itself. Alrighty, we are gonna wrap up there. The spine wheel posture, the more to right on the nose name, is definitely the winner in the votes. Hedgehog and witch's hat are also there. However, it's called the pumpkin posture because as it does, it curls its legs around itself. So when a scientist first saw it, he thought, hey, that kind of looks like a spiky pumpkin. I've never seen a pumpkin covered in spines. I feel like cactus might be a more accurate description of that move. However, he was probably thinking, well, it's called the vampire squid, so pumpkins, those are witchy. So you might as well call it the pumpkin posture. So the pumpkin posture is the name of that defensive pose a squid will take. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this Halloween version of trivia. If you would like to hear my voice more, and I'm not sure exactly why you would, but if you are desperate to hear more of my voice or me doing silly voices, you can check me out on our Halloween Spooky Night Tour. The 2 dates for that are this Friday and next Friday. You can check out those at explore.berkshiremuseum.org. The museum itself is open for reservations, so please feel free to check that out on our main website, berkshiremuseum.org/visit for more information. Other things coming up, we have an Earth Expo coming up on the website in the beginning of November, a number of webinars on how to be more environmentally conscious, activities you can do at home to reduce your carbon footprint, and other activities like that, culminating with a movie screening with a talk with the director of the film Entangled. And then, Lord, I have more ad copy here than I've ever had, so hold with me. And then our final one is we are doing our PJ night entirely online as a 24-hour readathon and are looking for submissions. And so if you would like to check out, we'll have more of that up on our Facebook and website in the coming weeks about how to submit a video. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for listening to me talk for so long. I hope you all have a great night, and I will see you in a couple weeks. Do the election, the next trivia will be on Thursday, the first Thursday of November. So 2 days later than normal. All right, thanks all.